because there's a lot of social workers and mission-driven people wandering out in the wild, right? And wondering why they feel so misaligned in their career and the activities they do to make money is because you don't have clarity around what it is that you want to do, one, and what it is that you need as far as aligning yourself with an organization, as far as the scope of work or roles that.
Welcome to the Social Work Rants podcast, providing a platform for social workers to share their stories. The podcast covers a wide range of topics, including mental health, social justice, policy, and the day-to-day realities of the profession. Season 10 will continue to focus on the intersectionality of mental health and finances. Hope you enjoy. Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. I appreciate all the love and support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. Continue to follow the podcast on social media, on Instagram at the Social Work Rants podcast. That is all one word. On Twitter, X, whatever Elon decides to call it next, at Social Work Rants, of course, Facebook, aka Meta, at the Social Work Rants podcast. Hit that like button. Of course, hit that red subscribe button on the YouTube. And of course, however you listen to podcasts, any platform you listen to, just like, share episodes. And we are in season 10, year 5 of the podcast. So shout out to everybody that's been supporting the 5 years of the podcast. My guest at this time, if you don't follow this young lady, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice, especially for MSW students. Please pay attention because we're going to be dropping some gems today, especially as you gear up to looking for work after graduation. Just, or you trying to change, pivot to a new role. Marthea Pitts, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Congratulations on season 10, year 5. That's a big milestone. How did you celebrate?
I still got to celebrate.
You got to celebrate those career wins now, boss. You have heard me rant and rave about celebrating the wins. So make certain that you do that. But I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm glad we were able to connect and make this happen. Though, for those who don't know who you are and what you do in the space, just tell people about yourself.
Yeah. Hey. My name is Marthea Pitts. I'm known on the social work and the internet streets far and wide as the MSW coach. I help social workers and mission-driven professionals scale their impact in their salary, specifically by pivoting their career from case management to macro level work. If you're not familiar with macro level work or macro social work, which social workers primarily know it as, it's systems change work. It's work that can be done largely either on a state level, a regional level, a national level, or global level. And as of today, I've helped well over 180 plus social workers make that pivot to macro level work using just their case management experience and their MSW degree, their Master of Social Work degree. Nothing more, nothing less. My people don't take demotions. They don't have to go back to school and get additional degrees and certifications. And the 180 number is since I've been officially keeping count. I don't know if I said that, but it's way more than that. And so I'm on a mission to really help more mission-driven people get as proximate to power as possible to move the needle closer to progress for the populations and issues they are passionate about. And so I do that through a group coaching program that has really grown over the last 5 years. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about all things career development. Boss has tapped me in and given me the go ahead, so he might have to pull me down off my soapbox, but I'm ready.
Oh no, we're gonna talk about going into that soapbox because I know I've done a couple of your trainings on the side with everything you're doing. It has helped me. I had to get out of that. It's weird because like the work I was doing. I couldn't do the drive anymore, and the work, just the environment became toxic. They're like, I got to get out of this job. um, just just taxing on my body driving. So and with Miss Pitts's uh, gems dropping, like was able to make a pivot. It's a temporary pivot, but it's still a much needed
A
pivot.
win
So
is a win. Don't
exactly,
go back. It's a
a win's a
pivot.
win. Yeah,
A win is a win. He got a job, y'all. Congratulations.
thank you.
That's amazing. And I just want to like piggyback on what you said, and that's the story of many social workers, right? Where they are in positions where that are doing major harm to them physically, right? So for you, I know that you shared with me like what that all entailed. I won't get into detail, but that is the story of many social workers. And so it's my job to get on my microphone every day in some way, shape, form, or fashion to bring light to there are other options for you as a social worker in your career where you are not required to be in a position where you are physically, emotionally, mentally just exhausting yourself to no end and losing yourself in the process of in the attempt of saving the world. So I'm so excited for you. That is yes, you've supported me over the years, and so that's why I'm even more excited to be here today.
No, yeah, we gotta support each other in the space, and if people doing good work in helping the community at large, we have to. There's all we got is us, because the systems are the systems, and it doesn't matter who's in office. Doesn't matter state, local level. All we got is us.
I agree.
Yes. So no, you mentioned your. Let's start with the cohort. What is that? What does that look like? How can people get involved with that?
Yeah, most definitely. So I have a group career coaching program called the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. I am actually in the process of gearing up for enrollment into cohort 17. There have been 16 cohorts, and many social workers that have come into the accelerator in between large cohort enrollments. And this has been over the last 5 years. And so I'm gearing up for cohort 17 enrollment, which will open on January 12th of 2025. And so the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator is a group coaching program where I teach social workers, MSW degree social workers, how to identify, apply, and interview for their dream macro social work job in 3 months or less. So it's my program promise that I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know and more to get the job that you've always wanted. And so a large part of that work that we do inside of the accelerator is around career clarity, because there's a lot of social workers and mission driven people wandering out in the wild, right? And wondering why they feel so misaligned in their career, and the activities they do to make money is because you don't have clarity around what it is that you want to do, one, and what it is that you need as far as aligning yourself with an organization, as far as the scope of work or roles that you do. So, a large part of the work that I do with my coaching clients is taking them through the frameworks that I created in my own pivot to macro level work and my years of being a workforce development career counselor and macro social worker. And it's helping people get clear once and for all. And then I also teach them the fundamentals. I teach them how to write their macro resume. I always tell people I'm not a resume writer. Please don't jump in my inbox asking me about writing your resume. I don't sit around and write people resumes for fun. I teach people how to fish. So I teach them how to write their resume. As a result of that, this is how my coaching clients have gone on to land 2, 3, 4, 5 macro jobs after working with me. I teach them how to write a winning macro cover letter. I teach them how to master macro interviews because they are very different from case management interviews, direct practice interviews, whatever word you want to use to talk about that level of work. I always categorize it as case management. And then I also teach them how to career plan, right? What I've seen over the last 5 years since being online is that a lot of social workers find themselves in situations where their back is up against the wall and they're just forced to leave because the overwhelm of the position is just too much. However, my philosophy is if you had a plan in place, you wouldn't even gotten to that point where the overwhelm was too much, where you just had to just completely walk away from everything. You would have transitioned a lot sooner into another position. And a large part of that is because you learn the fundamentals, the career readiness skills to navigate your career when your life changes, when your needs, wants, desires, when your body changes, things like that. And so that is really the cornerstone of what I teach my coaching clients is how to navigate themselves when life changes, when the administration changes, when your approaches to work change, you never get stuck in one position. So I'm so excited. I'm gearing up for cohort 17 enrollment. It's gonna be big. I'm currently right now working with cohort 16. They already getting wins, and we're only 60 days in. So I'm even excited about what's to come in 2025.
No, I like that. Now, in terms of how did business, how did you decide to want to do that? What's your backstory or your mini psychosocial regarding your business?
Boss, you know how I feel about psychosocial, biosocial, whatever y'all like to put on y'all resume. If you got that on your resume and you want a macro job, take it off immediately. Somebody quoted me the other day about that. Like, I know you said don't put biopsychosocial in there, but what do I put? Don't put that. Okay, so yeah, backstory. I am what you would classify in workforce development or career development as a career changer, which a large percentage of social workers are. Meaning that we had whole other career lives before becoming social workers. Maybe you worked in a restaurant or hospitality industry. Maybe you were teachers. Maybe you were accountants. And then all of a sudden you got this calling over your life and you wanted to become a social worker for whatever reason. So I too experienced that. And in my past career life, I was a state government employee. And I'm very transparent about the fact that for many, many, many years, I just had my high school diploma. I was a non-traditional student. And so in the small rural city where I lived, its goal is to get a state government job because that's one of the biggest employers there. Like another little fact is it was in 2017, the city where I live, Tallahassee, Florida, was identified to be the most economically segregated city in the nation, which is why I actually became a macro social worker, because the glaring inequities that I saw in the workforce development system. But I share that because I felt the pressure of that, right? And so in that city is goals for everyone to get a state job. And so I had to become real like crafty and teach myself how to get a state job because at that time when I was trying to get into a position there, it was all about nepotism and who you know and who you were connected to. And I had only been in that city for a few years. My family relocated from my hometown in Palm Beach County, Florida, area code 561. I always got to shout my city out. But so I was new to that place. And so because of that, I didn't have no connections. I didn't have a friend or auntie that worked somewhere. All of my family is in like the medical profession that lives in that city. So I had to get really, really good at figuring out how to get a job in state government. So I started out in state government. I got my first state government job. I was making $19,100 a year. I got really, really good at getting state jobs. And so I just moved around from department to department in an attempt to make more money because also I am a single mother. I have a child, I got preschool tuition to pay for and all kind of other stuff and car notes and things. So I want to be clear though, in those roles, I was only in call center jobs. So it would be the equivalent of like case management, but I was triaging calls. I was answering, listening to the hard calls, people cussing me out about their child support checks and the $1.25 payment that they didn't get. So in that job, like in those roles, I was like, I'm going back to school because the state pays for tuition. They give you a tuition waiver. And so I would see all of my colleagues going back to school. I'm like, I'm gonna go back too, because up until that time, I had many failed attempts of going back to the local community college. I was like, I'm gonna go back. It really was based on a conversation that I had with one of my coworkers who's now a good homeboy of mine. And he had graduated with his bachelor's. And he was like, Marthea, you could do it. And I was like, if Kenny could do it, I can do it, right? He kind of got offended when I first said that, but I didn't mean it in an offensive way. It was just if someone I can relate to
Mm-hmm.
it is, right?
Yeah.
Because I always held people with degrees up on a pedestal. I was like, I can do it too. Because he real down to earth like me. Like, that's why we cool. And so I went back to school, got my AA degree, got my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree, and I'm currently a PhD candidate, working on my PhD degree. And so I share all of that because my background in social services, one of the things that state workers like is the goal is to retire from the state and become some type of consultant. So
Mm-hmm.
even in my job where I was just working in call centers making $19,000, $100, 19,100 a year, I was still being engaged in conversations and overhearing conversations of people who were getting ready to retire from the state about them starting their consulting businesses, right? So when I heard that, because I've always been very fascinated with how can I get a better job? That's
Yeah.
always been the goalpost. So I made that a goal. I'm gonna be a consultant too, right? And so fast forward years later, that's how the MSW coach was born because it was a part of my career plan 15 years ago to become a
Mm-hmm.
consultant. Now, how I landed on coaching social workers.
Talk about it
That's
because
a whole nother story because I didn't know what kind of consultant I wanted to be. But 5 years ago, it was around 2019 because it was all a part of my plan that I'm going to start a consulting business. I'm going to move into
mm,
my consulting business around the time I'm going to start the doctoral program. Like all of this was mapped out. I just didn't have specifics. And
mm,
so 2019 is when I really spent a lot of time ideating what type of consultant I wanted to be, what type of business I wanted to have. And so I really immersed myself into the business side of the social media platforms. And I spent a lot of time feeling like conflicted, like all I have is this up here. However, other people they selling widgets. Now, keep in mind, I do have a bachelor's degree in business, so I use a lot of business lingo. I'm like, other people got widgets. They selling products, they selling hair, they doing all of the other things, right?
mm,
Just need to come up with something that I can sell, right? Not really acknowledging the gold mine that I was sitting on, which was all of this knowledge that I amassed over the last 15 plus years in different areas of life, not just personal, not just professional, but also personal. And so, with a lot of guided business coaching and really a heart to heart conversation from one of my then at that time friends, um, I was like, it keep coming back to like I could coach social workers on getting
mm,
jobs, on getting the type of because at that point I had just landed my third macro job and I was making the most money I had ever made in my career. I had time freedom. I was making my own schedule. I could come and go as I please, and I was being paid top dollar. And so my friend was like, Pitts, because we call each other by our last name. She was like, Pitts, there's nobody better than you. Teach the people how to get the job you got, because also at that point I kept going back and forth with like, how can I create more opportunities for social workers, the social workers I used to know back in Tallahassee, to
mm,
get the job that I had, like get a job like I had, because they were making like $20,000, $24,000 a year, right? And it's like, how can I help them start making more money? Because they're so good at what they're doing. They're so passionate and they're so mission driven. And so it was a combination of me having those thoughts, having those conversations with that then friend of mine at that time. And she was like, Pitts, is nobody better than you. And so I always like to be clear that my focus on workforce, on career development was like really birth for me. Like it was like my worlds collided when I landed my first case management job. So this is before going macro. And I worked as a workforce development career counselor in a welfare transition program. And so where I am now is, and the reason my friend was encouraged, like telling me is nobody better than you, is because in workforce development, where I had won multiple awards, like I was well known in my city, I was well known in my industry, I was well known in the country for getting people jobs. I won two statewide awards and one national award. And I was telling her, I was like, but I don't want to do that. Like, and look, that I'm over here sitting in my office waiting for the people to call me for my meeting. Right? No, I don't want to do that. She was like, Pitts is nobody better than you. And I'm really thankful because she magnified like what I needed to hear because I am guilty of running past the red, the flags, the green flags. I will ignore them. And so she really set me down. And so that's how the MSW Coach Education Company was birthed. I officially, like publicly started marketing my business April of 2020 in the height of the pandemic. I used
Mhm.
my stimulus check and I invested in my business and then from there I enrolled my first coaching client, which is Tasha. I always reference her because she's the first person that paid me my first digital dollar. Now keep in mind I have helped dozens of people in my city, my friends and my family get
Mm,
jobs that had changed their lives over the years as far as like becoming homeowners and relocating and things like that. But I had never done it with anybody outside of my city. And so Tasha was the first one to pay me. She was like, whatever, or however much you want to charge me, sign me up. I was like, well, we could do 3 sessions. And she was like, are you sure? Do I need more? And then we got to the end of the 3 sessions. Like, I want more sessions. And so Tasha signed up with me, I think like 2 months after I officially jumped online. And she landed a job within 2 months of working with me. And so it never was that I doubted my ability to help people get jobs. I knew that. It was just that I was like, do I really want? I felt like what I had done was not sufficient enough to like form a business around it. And I
mm,
share that because I see a lot of social workers minimizing like the wonderful achievements they've made over the years in that same way where they think that it's not what's the word? They think that it's not legitimate enough, right? It
mm,
was just in a job. Everybody does that. No, everybody doesn't do that. Everybody doesn't help people get jobs at a record number. Everybody doesn't help people get connected to resources or whatever your thing is. So, yeah, that's how I got here. I know that was a long story.
no, that's a great that you bring that up, and especially during you still had the courage to start your business in the height of the pandemic because we didn't know what COVID was, what's happening, or we gonna catch it, or we gonna survive. Like like what is happening? Like some states just didn't care. Like cities like Atlanta was open. Like don't matter. Like so it's and compared to where I lived at the time in New York, that was like the epicenter, and like literally had like bringing trucks like frozen trucks and having bodies in the trucks. So it was like a wild, a wild time for in these last like 5 years. So, did you have like any like doubts during that time, like starting the business, like to like damn, COVID's here, like I'm I'm really gonna start this?
Um, did I have any doubts? No, I would say that the doubts that I had were more personal. I've been talking a lot more about my business journey because I'm getting ready to also publicly release a business coaching program for social workers and mission-driven professionals. But I'm currently doing that work with my clients that have already worked with me in some form, like some way inside of the accelerator. But what I share with them is that developing a business is more personal than the development of the business. Like I have truly come to know myself over these last 5 years when you are birthing something from your own hands and you're not
Mm,
standing behind the name of an organization. I can say that like I've had a lot of doubt in that area as to me because I've had to release the old me. I always tell my
mm,
people when I talk to them, it's a whole lot of new Marthea going on. And every day I'm processing the new me. And so
mm,
the doubt comes in, but it quickly goes away because I am very faith led. Again, that's another thing. Like I've really like gotten stronger in my faith. But
mm,
yeah, so I would say the doubt is around like the new version that you have to become when you are really pouring into others in this way. When it comes to career development and career coaching, it's more than just resume writing. It's really, I'm listening to listening to the fears that people have that they never share publicly. I'm listening to like their bouts of unbelief, their doubts, all of the things that they struggle with confidence wise. So it's always from a regarding like making certain that I'm in a whole place, that I'm moving a line, like I'm moving with the right energy, because I never want to misappropriate the position that I really truly have in my clients' lives, helping them on this journey. Does that make sense?
No, it does. No, it does
Mhm.
make a lot of sense. Um, wow, you said a whole a whole word there. It's funny you mentioned the faith because I definitely really tapped in this last year,
Oh,
year and a half in my faith as well, and it helped that the church I'm at open a location in my town that I live in, so it makes things easier to join and really tap in every week and serve and things like that. So I definitely could relate to that. Um, and you said earlier about just being kind of like in a way, like for lack of a better word, lost of the source in terms of like social workers not knowing what they want to do in spaces. Like I know for a while I was definitely like that. I think part of it is just working spaces where it's just like toxic and you're just not a good working environment. So you have like supervisors who like making you doubt yourselves and like you're able to do the work and it's just like it can't be is it me like it can't be just me like it has to be like just the systems in place uh now in terms of like for like MSW students coming in or new like graduating students like how can people like uh look for jobs that they really want to do.
mhm. So I just want to also go back to what you said, because that was a lot, right? And I want to like add to that because it's really a great point to pause, where about the systems, right? I talk about social workers being all over the place, but I am very also clear about the fact that you feel all over the place in your career because of the fact that you have been impacted by the workforce development system, right? So social workers know about the healthcare system, they know about housing, they know about all of the things, but the workforce development system is a system. It's designed to keep certain people at the bottom and other people at the top, right? When it comes to jobs and employment and economic prosperity and self-sufficiency. So it's a real thing. So the pressure that social workers feel is a result of being in a system. And again, that's why I became a macro social worker, because of the glaring inequities in the workforce development system and how I saw it impacting my career seekers. With that being said, and I'm saying that so people are fully aware that it is a system, and
Mm-hmm.
that social workers are impacted by it, but also with that, oh, yes, no one is going to like voluntarily, especially an employer, anyone within like an employment based type of setting, they're not going to volunteer and tell you the golden ticket to achieve lifelong self-sufficiency and surpass them economically, right? They're not going
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So that's why I really encourage people to, especially social workers, always move with high career intent, meaning where you start asking questions, where you start investing time into your career and strategizing about your next move over and beyond just getting a degree, a certification, or a license, because you understanding the fundamentals to career readiness, getting a job, keeping a job, finding aligned jobs really will serve you well in the rest of your career, right? Because the people are not going to like march up to you and tell you that. You're going to have to go out and seek that information on your own, right? If you really want to change your life, be it financially, mentally, emotionally. So I love that. What I would say to new social workers is a few different things, right? And this isn't just for social workers. I'm sure you have other professions that listen to your
Mm-hmm.
podcast
Yeah.
also. So what I would say that I see as a big issue is that many people enter their education career, meaning they go into a degree program, be it AA, bachelor's, master's, even DSW, doctorate of social work degree programs, and they are only focused on their degree program, right? On completion of the degree program, and they completely lose sight or forget or dismiss or whatever word you want to use for it, the fact that the reason you're getting the degree is to get a better job. Yes, college back in the day, universities back in the day were designed to develop these critical thinkers. However, for many of us, we are going to school as a means to an end, as a way to make more money, to increase our salary earning potential. So with that, you are doing yourself a disservice to enter your degree program and completely forget about your degree. I mean, excuse me, your career and your long and your short and long term career goals. And so how that looks is that social workers, again, anybody, they don't start looking for a job until they graduate. I'm like, nah, I need you to have high career intent. I need you to move from being reactive to proactive, which means before you even apply to your degree program, you need to be clear about what type of job do you want exactly. Exactly. Not generals, right? So that again, that's the career clarity work. When you go to start like researching your degree programs, you need to be asking questions around, will this degree program position me to get a job? Because what I've talked to hundreds of social workers, inside and outside of the US, right? And what I know to be true is that social workers, they go into their degree programs, some of them with like a at least like a baseline vision for what type of job they want. But then when they start going through the vetting process of degree programs, and the people tell them, well, we don't have that available here. We have that, we have this here, right? We have this track, we don't have that track. A lot of them settle, right? They settle and say, okay, well, I'll do it. Or a lot of them, which is a major theme, like a running theme I hear all the time, a lot of them were like convinced to go in the other track, even though it wasn't what they wanted. So my biggest thing I would say is have clarity about what you want, right? And really stand your ground on that. If you want to be certain that you are using your time, your years, your minutes on this earth wisely, right? Don't let anyone convince you to do something that you know you don't want to do. And just to like give you a bigger view of how that impacts you later in your career, in your life. That's why we have a lot of social workers who are burnt out. That's why we have a lot of social workers who are on extended leave from work, right? Because of the mental health needs, all of the things like that. That's why we have a lot of social workers who are in not so great places financially because they just had to walk away from everything because the work was just too much. But then when you ask them, what did you originally want to do with your degree, right? A lot of them don't say that they wanted to be a social worker. A lot of them tell me that what they really wanted to do was around their bachelor's degree program. But for whatever reason, they couldn't find a job, largely because they didn't know how to find a job. And so, as a way to what people naturally think the solution is to when you can't get a job is to go get another degree, they went and got a master's degree. It becomes this vicious cycle. So, my word of encouragement is have clarity. Also, when you vet your programs, vet them, and don't let anyone sway you on your career vision. But then also, when you are in your degree program, be certain that you are leveraging the connections that your university and your program has. That's what your tuition paying for. They should be putting you in front of aligned employers. They should be preparing you for getting out into the actual field. I see a lot of social workers settling on their field placements and their practicum sites, and then when they get out in the real world, they have no tangible experience. And it's like you were supposed to get the experience in your practicum. If they don't have the site that you want, you need to advocate for yourself to get the site that you want.
Right.
You want to make it worthwhile for you because your tuition dollars are paying for that. Even if you are not paying it out of pocket and you getting you a good old student loan, you still paying for it. You gotta pay
Exactly.
them people back their money. Either they gonna get it in blood or they gonna get it in dollars. They gonna get it, right? Even if you're doing loan forgiveness, they gonna get your time, they gonna get your energy. So you wanna
Exactly.
make certain that you're getting a return on your investment. So I would say be more proactive, really understand that you are in school to get a job and don't get lost in that. And because my vision for everyone is you should be walking across the stage with your degree in one hand and a job offer in another. And before you say, well, I can't do both, yes, you can. You have done hard things. You have done hard things. You can be applying and studying, right? And I maybe not be the right person to have that like conversation, or you could do all of the things because I worked full time. I was a full time student and a full time mother, right? You can do it. You can do it. It's a short term sacrifice for a long term payoff. It's only two, one, depending on if you're fast track, advanced thing,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
1 to 4 years. You can do both, and it will serve you well in the end. So yeah.
Not, not yet, because I remember for myself, like I was working in foster care, and I see all these supervisors coming and going, and the one thing they all had in common was these three letters after their name, MSW. And mind you, when I got my bachelor's, I was like, I had no intention of going back to school. End up in the foster care job. It was like, damn, I don't have to go back to school. And my supervisor at the time that lasted the longest, he was always in my ear, like, you need to go get your MSW. It's like, all right, let's go get this MSW because the intent was to make more money.
Yeah. Can I ask something? Can I say something about that? And I'm not talking about your supervisor because I don't know him, the former one. But there's a lot of social workers out there that's lying to y'all because they don't know, right? They don't know. I always say it's the equivalent of going asking a banker about how to physically build a house. They don't know. They just know how to finance the house, right? And so what I see is a lot of social workers taking career in even education like advice, because I also was an academic advisor. I worked at a teaching faculty at a R1 university. And I see a lot of people taking advice when it comes to career and education goal attainment from people who are not qualified to have those conversations with you. And it's really leading you astray, right? Because what I know to be true from working with my coaching clients is the jobs that I help my people get, macro jobs, only require a bachelor's degree in any area of work, any profession, any major, and 2 years of like work where you're working in the community or working on a relevant topic area, right? And a whole lot of passion. That's all it takes. So a lot of people are severely over credentialed and are not in capabilities aligned positions, right? Where you have all of this education, but you're working in a social service job, right? And
Mm,
again, I'm talking about everybody across the span, not just clinical social workers, even though I primarily work with a large number of clinical social workers, ironically enough. But yeah, I see a lot of people taking advice and guidance from people who struggle in their own career. And if you don't
mm.
take anything else from this conversation, I want y'all to stop it. Because the people lying to you. They're lying to you.
So I'm a seasoned social worker, and by like all the gray I got going on, and I feel it in my body. Thank you, social work. Um, so I was like, I want to do clinical work, like do counseling or outpatient therapy, and maybe get my C. And man, I did some counseling. I was like, I do not want to do this.
I don't even like it. But y'all will ride into the wheels fall off. You gonna get all of the letters and y'all don't even like it. That's what y'all tell me. But I'm sorry. I had it.
But it's true. Uh, I'm meeting more. I would say going to conferences, or I'm meeting more, social workers throughout, and many a season like myself. And it's like you either like what you're doing, or you just living and or try to pivot and try to pay for for trainings like and figure things out, and we kind of stuck. And so it's like, so that's real, especially in this economy is no, we can't afford to be stuck like like kind of inflation like that Biden refused to call inflation, the recession, and like inflation happening, and who knows what Orange Man's going to do this time around. So it's like we need to get it together with our finances. I like the fact that people, social workers, are talking about finances and things like that, and retirements and things like that, because that wasn't talked about not even like 5 years ago. So I like the fact that that's happening, but we, we can't afford to be stuck.
Yeah, most definitely. Time is money, and what I lead with, because I talk like to talk real regular. I'm South Florida all day. All money ain't good money. All money ain't good money. There's a difference between a universal career seeker and a mission-driven career seeker, right? Yes, we need money. No, nobody is working for free. I'm not on the bandwagon with the people. What is it? What do they say? We're in it for the impact, not the income. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I got tuition to pay. I got a child to put through college and all kind of things to pay for, right? Just like everyone else. And so, but still, I'm not willing to sell my soul for $1, right? I have to do aligned work. But also I have to do it in a way that prioritizes me, but also that supports others. So to hear you talk about that and to talk about like the movement of social workers talking about, I still consider myself to be a baby social worker, ironically enough. Like I only graduated my MSW degree in 2017. Didn't I was opposed to social workers before going into it. That's a whole nother story. Because I had such bad experience of working in state government, and I equated, just like many social workers do, I equated social service workers to social workers. And they are
Mm-hmm.
not the same. There's a very distinct difference between social work administration jobs, whereas a lot of social workers work in direct practice, case management roles, and then there's a very distinct difference between macro level work. But yeah, to hear you talk about the financial literacy piece, I always love that. I have one of my coaching clients who, in her past career life, she worked in the banking and finance industry. She was a bank teller. And so the macro job that she ended up getting is a job where she's working to do national level work around financial literacy and access for under-resourced populations and communities. I helped her blend the what you used to do and what she's really passionate about, because like in her free time she has like these education sessions and webinars for people in her community about all things financial literacy, and we blended that where she now gets paid but also is moving the needle um towards progress for that population and that issue. But also I wanted to say this too, boss. I need you to start a community for the financial literacy social workers. I don't know how you what the words are for it, but I need you to start a movement. I know you got that certification over there. You sitting on it. I need you to pop it out and use it and start leading the people. Like my call to action for social workers in 2025 is the people are being led astray by the loudest people in the room. I have a charge for social workers to move from a place of just, voicing, your thoughts, ideas, to just social workers to getting out into the world at large and start educating the masses. There's nobody better than you. I would love to start seeing some posts where you're educating the people about financial literacy and do that to just more than social workers, because the world needs people who are mission driven and passionate about a thing. And they're really looking for that information now more than ever. So that's just me kicking into career coach mode. I know you ain't asked for it, but you got
That
it.
I like that idea, and you got to follow Bass Marino Consulting on Instagram and on Threads, because I put the financial information on that. So,
Yes, I love it.
um, a great conversation. Let's give one final, like, give an example of where can a social worker doing direct practice, case management, however you want to call it, uh, where where in the macro world could they go into?
So there are many different areas of work that you can pivot into under the macro umbrella. Social workers only know about policy, maybe
Mm.
even like a political role. My coaching clients don't even go into policy or a political role, right? And this is from my extensive research on it over the last 10 years because I love looking at jobs and looking at the job market. And I'll just give you a few because there's an exhaustive list that I've compiled over the last several years. I've gotten coaching clients into the philanthropic space, right? There's no better person than a social worker to be in the rooms deciding the allocation of large funding pots, millions, millions, billions of dollars than a social worker because implicitly like who the key players are in cities and states and who does the work well and who really can use the funding because unfortunately a lot of funding is what's the word y'all like to use they
Yeah.
gatekeep the funding,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so a lot of organizations that are not viewed as being legitimate don't get the funding, but they do the work really, really well. We know as a case manager, it's that
Mm-hmm.
one organization. Send the people over there.
Yes.
Don't send them over there. They ain't gonna help them, right? But the place that don't really help them get all of the money.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing was I'm gonna get some social workers into the philanthropic space to be in the room to advocate for those what are viewed as not legitimate organizations. So there's philanthropy, there is research, of course. There is also a lot of work being done around education, social emotional learning needs of students. I got a social worker in that space. There's a lot of work being done around, like in the research setting. I have a coaching client that landed a macro job where her case management background was regarding serving immigrants. However, her outside passions, because I didn't say this, I specialize in helping social workers blend their outside passions into their career. Now, don't get all up in arms. I'm not talking about monetizing your closely held passions, but my philosophy is that out of the 20 that y'all got, because social workers got a bunch of things that you do outside of work, right? Because you're trying to fulfill yourself because you're not getting it in the job. So you all
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of side projects, a lot of hustles, a lot of things that you like to do. My philosophy is if we take at least one or two elements of like those things and strategically infuse it into your career, you can increase your career satisfaction rates because social workers career satisfaction rates based on a lot of research that's been done by the CSWE over the years is low. You don't like your job. So my coaching client in her free time, she loves to play a cultural instrument. Like she's in this whole community band and she travels the city. And I'm like, so you are an artist, which also fun fact, a lot of social workers are creatives at heart, right? However, you're sitting in jobs where you're sitting in a cubicle all day, you're looking at a wall and you're talking about people and you don't have any creative expression or outlet. So I was like, we can infuse that. But she also had aspirations of doing research, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she had a background, she was coming from 30 years of being a school social worker. And I was like, I could teach you how to find a job that blends all of those things that she discovered during the career clarity process. She didn't believe it. But fast forward within a few months, she landed a job where she now works as a researcher and she only has an MSW degree, no, and she's a licensed clinical social worker, but her job has nothing to do with being a licensed clinical social worker. She ended up landing a job with a research institute where she's now working on a national research project that is specifically looking at the lived experiences of immigrants, specifically through the use of the arts, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
collecting these very rich stories of immigrants and analyzing it to understand, to really help immigrants better integrate into US society. So we have research. I've helped actually a public health professional because she's mission driven enter into the biotechnology industry where she is doing work around equity for women and getting women into the STEAM careers. So I've helped people get corporate jobs with Fortune 500 corporations. So there's a running list of organization types that I've compiled over the years. And I've at this point gotten a lot of people helped a lot of people get jobs in those industries. I have a coaching client, Cynthia, who landed an opportunity to go to the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, to
Mm,
represent her organization around an environmental justice issue. And that was groundbreaking. And now she has created this whole career for herself around being an international macro social worker. So the industries, organization types, and industries are endless. I always say that if you can dream it, like if you can dream it up, I can show you how to find a job that allows you the opportunity to do that. And it doesn't only happen within the parameters of being the leader of an organization, being the front face, being the one that's at the podium or holding the picket signs. Macro organizations also have huge machines behind them, teams, right? They
mm,
need people behind the organization to really help move the work forward. And so a large number of my coaching clients don't want to necessarily do leadership roles. So I help them get the jobs that's behind the scenes, and they are really thriving in those roles. But yeah, macro level work can encompass anything. You can go, I always tell people this: you can get any kind of job you want with your degree. It doesn't just have to be social work specific. As long as it's not like a job where you have to go to medical school to become a medical doctor or something like
right.
that, but you can pivot into any setting or organization. And that's a big myth that I would love to bust here on this during our conversation, that you are not only you don't only qualify for jobs with social work, social worker, MSW degree, BSW degree in the job description title, or like in the requirement section. Yeah. So to answer your question, you can work anywhere you want. This is what do you want to do?
Nah, I like that. Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, most definitely. So you can reach out to me on my website is a great starting point at macroandpaid.com. Macro and paid, because we get paid over here. So macroandpaid.com, you can grab my free e-course. It's free. It's my labor of love. It's the course that I created to tell you everything that you need to know about what macro social work is, what it entails, job titles, salaries, scopes of work, the types of organizations that hire macro employers. And so it's a great place to start. And again, you can grab that free e-course on macroandpaid.com. It's a 5-day e-course. Each day I send a new lesson to your email box, and it's jam-packed with resources, with homeworks, with homework, and with things that I've strategically curated to help you build your knowledge about this whole other, what people think, elusive area of work. I really demystified it for social workers, but the e-course is a great place to start. And then also at macroandpaid.com, you can get the link to my Instagram page. And my Instagram page is the_MSW coach. I am there in some way, shape, form, or fashion every day. But I would strongly suggest that you start with the e-course.
Yeah, I like that. Great info, and I've done the classes, so like I'm living proof that the stuff Marthea talks about works, and you just kind of get it together. 2025, you want to get a new job, or just MSW students who graduating, like get a job, like there you go, you got options. Always a pleasure talking to you. You still doing the YouTube?
Yeah, I am. I do have a YouTube channel. It's Marthea Pitts on YouTube. I post at least once a week there. It's a lot of great information. I encourage you to go over there and like comb through the videos. If you have a question about something I talked about today, I most likely have a video talking about it in more in detail. Yeah.
Yeah, the lives you do was great. I was like 3 o'clock. I was like, darn, I got a damn staff meeting. I try to listen to the staff meeting and watch the video at the same
Oh,
time.
I was I just thought about that yesterday. I was like, I need to start back the lives when they at work, because I be want y'all, I want y'all your ear, because when you get out of work, a lot of y'all have checked out. I need your ear while you're at work and you feeling the pain of that job. So to hear you say that you like that, I'm gonna bring them back. Yeah.
On that note,